Welcome to Deep Dive. I'm Kevin Benedict, your host, and I want to welcome everyone out there for joining us today. I'm excited to introduce my guest today, Steve Pappas, who's the Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer of Panviva. Thanks for joining us, Steve.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. This is going to be great.
So, Steve, where are you calling in from today?
So I'm actually located in our offices. Our U.S. headquarters are based in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Oh, that's beautiful country, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Oh, that's terrific.
A little too much snow this year, but it's been great.
Well, I'm calling in here from beautiful Boise, Idaho today, and my virtual office. So it's not necessarily Boise that you see behind me, but my virtual office travels everywhere with me. So, Steve, let's jump in and find out a little bit about you. So why don't you just talk to us and give us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I'd love to. So a little bit about me. I right out of university with a business degree and an MIS, an information systems background, I decided that I was more of the entrepreneurial sport. And so after working in an office environment for a while, I decided I think I'm going to do this myself. So I proceeded over the next number of years to start 6 different startups, sold all 6 of them.
Wow.
And we did very well. What I found along the way was that I had a penchant for growing businesses, and at the same time I had to learn how to survive. So turnarounds were another area that I found myself being drawn to. So since that point of my startups, I've worked for companies mostly either in a turnaround situation or in how to get it off the ground and really grow it and figure out the variables that we're missing to take off with.
Oh, that's terrific. So looks like about 10 years ago, you joined Panviva. So there must be something there that, number one, attracted you to Panviva, and number two, has kept you there. Talk to us about that.
So it's kind of an interesting story because I was recruited to come in and run the U.S., the Americas, early on. But I looked at the product and I said, oh, knowledge management. And at that point, 10, 11 years ago, knowledge management had been fairly perfected in my mind. But then I said, let me see the system and then let me talk to some customers. The minute I talked to customers, I realized this was not knowledge management that I was familiar with, that I had implemented in many companies before, because Panviva approached the problem differently. Panviva was actually a technology company that started out as a consultancy in Australia and was really geared around how to map information so that employees could be much more productive, efficient, and effective at their jobs. Ultimately, they're taking care of a customer or they're doing something on behalf of the company. So when I looked at the company itself, I said, they really have something here. But there are some variables that we need to solve. So I decided to take on the challenge. And honestly, in the last almost 11 years now, there have been more challenges as we grow. And as anyone knows in business, as you grow, there are crisis points that you come to. And I pride myself on making sure we go into a crisis point and come out of a crisis point unscathed to be better on the other side. So the challenge has continuously been there, and I have not seen any need to change.
Now, I know in your world, you probably think everybody understands knowledge management, but can you explain to those of us that don't live in that space, kind of what's the difference between content management and knowledge management? How are they treated different, and what distinguishes them from each other?
Sure. And that's a good question, because knowledge management is confused by a lot of executives and a lot of folks in business today, that it's about how we store information. So maybe we could even add some other things like document management
Yeah.
into this, that it really boils down to, oh, we need to store information better. But the key is, it's not about storage. It's about how someone is going to access that information the second that they need it, so they can use that knowledge to turn it into action. So the difference between content management is really how you're managing the content that's going to be used in different platforms, portals, and things of that nature, your website and stuff like that. The document management is where you put various documents, where you archive documents, maybe contracts, things like that, that you will refer to at a later date. But knowledge management is different. Knowledge management is kind of the best of all things in those areas that makes the individual be able to perform better, so that they have things at their fingertips. And I always say, it's kind of like you cleaned out the garage and I need to borrow a pair of pliers from you, and you felt, well, I stored everything really nicely, but I don't know how to access where you stored it.
Yes.
That's the key to knowledge management, is figuring out, and it's not a hard process, but figuring out how to store things because someone needs to access them in 3 clicks or less. The way we approach it, it's they have to be able to get the right information to do the job in 3 clicks or less. Ultimately, they're satisfying a client need, a customer need, a partner need, and making that experience better.
So is it fair to say, Steve, that you're associating information with processes, so at the right time, in the right place, the right information is available?
Exactly. So we all have to operate on processes day in and day out. We do it in our own lives. We just don't think about it. But the reality is that there are many processes that every worker goes through in the course of a day. Now, you could train a lot of that information, but most adults don't learn well in the classroom setting. They learn better by doing. So by having a knowledge system, it's that guide on the side. It's always there. It gives you what you need in a digestible format so that you can turn that into action. And the process will stay. Now, the processes, as we know, might change at midnight tonight. A new regulation could go into effect, and all of a sudden the process is going to be different for the people logging in tomorrow. So a knowledge management system is the only defense against the levels of complexity in business, the amount of change that's happening continuously, and the fact that we all have to be compliant in one shape or another, or there are fines or credits or other negative impacts on the finance side.
I can particularly see the value when there's a scaled operation and you need to be able to get that knowledge across, thousands of people in real time. Yeah, I can appreciate how important that would be in those environments, whether it be contact centers or, sales organizations, whatever.
Yeah, it could be a hospital. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about it, a lot of hospitals have been changing their EMR and EHR systems, the electronic medical record
Yeah.
Type of systems. And all the doctors have to input information into these systems. Well, they have to be trained.
Yeah.
And the problem is, you're going to take 500 doctors in an average hospital out of doing their daily rounds and things and put them in a training facility where they can't save lives. That's a difficult thing to do. However, if there's a good knowledge management system side by side, whatever other core system you're putting in, no matter the level or the tenure of the person, they can get what they need as they're doing. And they know that I always have access to the information because it's given to me as guidance, kind of like a GPS does for us to get from here to there when we're in our car.
Oh, absolutely. So you also have the title there of Chief Marketing Officer. Let me ask you this from a marketing standpoint. How many of your customers or prospects, I should say, are already familiar with this space and how to use it? And how much of your work is really about educating the market?
There's a fair amount of education that goes on and evangelizing too, because the reality is not everyone is taught knowledge management in school, right? They're not taught how to access information in school. As from kids, and for the last 40 years, we've all learned how to store information. I mean, if you think back to when you started on a computer, you had to learn how to create folders. You had to learn how to be very disciplined about that. But today, we've gone so far beyond that to where we're able to get the information in 3 clicks. Not only the information, we can get the answers we need, we can get the compliant way of handling something, the latest way of doing it, as well as what do we say? What do we avoid saying? What path should we take? And if you think about some of the industries, whether they be financial services or hospitals or healthcare or utilities or field service, those are some very critical industries that need the information to do the job. But if you just meet someone, it's not like they have a frame of reference all the time as to, well, how does this knowledge system work for me and help me be better at my job? So there
Mm.
is a bit of evangelizing. Once they see it, the light goes off above their head.
Oh, very good. So if I'm one of your potential customers, and I'm going to sit here, I'm going to say, Steve, what problem do I have that you're going to help me solve, and what's the ROI? What would be your approach?
So the best approach would be to really look at what they're faced with today, right? So if and it only takes a few questions because most people, their hair's on fire all day, right? But the reality is that it's how things are manifesting today. Are you meeting your metrics, right? Are you hitting your numbers? Are you able to get your people trained quickly enough? But what about how long it takes for them to be competent, right?
Mm.
And are you getting the ROI out of your employees? Not just even before we start talking about the technology, are you getting the return on investment that you're making in hiring these people? So we look at all of these factors and we take a very consultative approach because we want to make sure we're a good fit no matter what for an organization. And then once we look at what they're faced with today, have they been fined? Are they struggling with their metrics? Are they throwing too many bodies at the problem to solve it as a temporary band-aid for now? Then we look at that, and then we also look to see what kind of an ROI will they get from this system. Now, most of our ROIs, quite frankly, are between 3 and 6 months full payback,
Mm.
because most companies have been struggling with it, but they don't always know how to put their finger on it, right? They don't know how to describe it. They just
Right.
that there's some kind of an information problem, or it may be a training problem. But when you do a root cause analysis and you start, really peeling back the onion and understanding where the problems are, sometimes the priorities will change. So we look at that and then we do an ROI with every customer because we want to baseline everything that we do, because our approach is we have a customer success group that's in there with them on a quarterly basis, is looking, how are we doing for you? Can we make some advisory changes here? Should we try something else? Have you thought about this? So we look at it from multiple aspects, but it's important for us to first understand what their situation is. So we do a situation analysis and a discovery and scoping out of their problem, even before we say, okay, it makes sense. here's what it will cost you, here's the time it will take, and here's the ROI. We want to make sure that we can really help them first.
So who do you target inside a big enterprise with your solution? Because it seems like the addressable market can be anybody and everybody in a way. And, almost anybody in a leadership role can take advantage of this, but who do you typically target within your markets?
So the reality is that any company that's got 50 or more employees has the information problem. They've got the overload of information and it's changing all the time. So everyone could use it, but the way we approach it from a marketing perspective and a sales perspective is we go directly to the chief operating officer, right? Because it's the chief operating officer that has to deal with all of the metrics, all of the servicing of the clients, that all of those parts of the business generally come under. In many cases, we will walk into the contact center as the first port of call, if you will, mostly because the contact center tends to be like a hub of a business, right? That if you build the information and architect it properly for the contact center, lots of groups benefit by it. And it makes it easier for an organization to expand outward. Right? So a lot of times we start there, and that comes under the chief operating officer in most enterprises.
Got it.
And they see the benefit on day one.
Thank you for sharing that. So you've been there at Panviva for over 10 years. Mm-hmm. How have you seen, or maybe how has your marketing approach evolved over those 10 years, given there's all kinds of new kinds of technology and MarTech and all that? How have you changed your strategy or seen it change over the last 10 years?
It's a good question, because we've actually adapted to the changing economy and how things were evolving from a technology perspective too. But I hate to say it this way, but sometimes the tried and true methods are still the best. Mm-hmm. I would say that we do a lot of different marketing activities today, and it has changed. We've gone from more direct marketing to more digital marketing. We've completely done a digital transformation within our organization. But if I had to say where all of our leads come from, the majority still come from our business development representatives that are out there building relationships one-on-one with every COO out there. And they do a great job, and leads come in multiple times during the course of the day, whereas the inbound from all of the marketing activities, the blogging, the content, promotions that we do, the events and those things, that's a constant, but it's not the same as when you can either speak to someone at an event one-on-one to understand their problems, or you build a relationship on the phone and better understand the prospect's needs.
Very good. So do you have a particular marketing stack? I know some companies, they'll say for personalization, we do this, and then we have a Salesforce over here for that, and we use Marketo over here for that, and for content, we use something else. What does your technology stack look like for your marketing organization?
As most companies, we have a lot of things. Our sales teams work within the Salesforce environment, and we've heavily customized that, and we work with various apps within that. Our lead generation, we use the ZoomInfo platform, which does a phenomenal job of finding types of targets for us. For our direct campaigning, we use the Act On platform. We were with a different platform, but it was overkill for us. Mm-hmm. We found that we weren't using all of the modules. While we do some personalization, we tend to do a lot more customer journey mapping and buyer journey mapping. So we don't have to personalize as much, but make sure that we are targeting the needs and the issues that that persona is wrestling with. And then we build out the journey so that at each stage, as they evolve through the buying cycle, we're providing them with what they need through through portals. Once we're in contact with them, they take a test drive and build our own drive on our own CMS. That gives them the ability to kind of get in, tinker, play with it, see if it's the right fit for them. And we've built out all of the different industries, the different use cases. But then we've built a lot of our technology stacks around the customer success, the customer enablement, and our partner ecosystem too. So there's a lot more things that have come into place, but between Salesforce, ZoomInfo, Acton, that is our main go-to things on a daily basis.
So interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Now, content. Let's talk about content here for a moment. It used to be, I think most people would depend on some kind of brochure kinds of content, some white papers, some basic stuff like that. How have you seen the demands of your customers and your prospects for content? How have you seen that change over the years, and where are we at today with content?
So you're right. Probably 10 years ago, it was the traditional brochures, sales sheets, white papers, technical briefs, things of that nature. It has evolved so much beyond that, that the content we develop today is very high value content. So we approach it that things that we're going to send out better have value, even if that person never thinks about buying our technology. That we're going to give them things, tips, tricks, assessments, ways to work within a workshop in their own organization. How do you could take a group of people into the conference room, and how can you look at your own situation analysis, do the root cause analysis. So we even have things that help train people in some of the steps that we would normally do, but they can do for themselves. So we find that the content we develop is much more of a high value, but not salesy. It's that we as the vendor owe it to the marketplace to be able to give them information so that they can do a great job. And at the same time, if it gives them the ability to make better decisions, we hope they will remember that we were there to begin that partnership early in the process.
Oh yeah, especially as a consultative approach. If they see you guys as the subject matter experts, I can see how that would be so valuable for you guys in positioning and thought leadership. So that's a great thing. So and I imagine you have, of course, your websites, you have video. How has video changed over time for you guys?
Video has become extremely big for us. I want to say we probably have in our library almost 200 video testimonials from our customers. We ask everyone, and the interesting thing is the customers are so happy with our technology and the way we treat them. They're happy to go on video. And a lot of people they're fearful of going on video like we are today.
Yeah.
They don't want that. And they go out of their comfort zone and go out of their way to give us a video that helps us grow as a company. So we had taken about 5 years ago, we had made a conscious decision to try and capture as many of the people that either use or benefit or make decisions around our technology in all of our clients. So you can go onto our website and you see maybe 5% of the videos that we have that during the course of a sales process, maybe someone has a question. We like to say, you know what? I think I've got a video from a customer that could answer that for you. And we'll send them the link because it answers the question from a customer to customer, peer-to-peer type of a scenario rather than us as the vendor telling them, yes, it will work that way. It's better when a customer says it. And
absolutely.
And a lot of webinars, every event we have, we capture. There's always a video crew at everything that we do. because you never know when the question's asked. It's better to be able to give them, they can see it for themselves in video.
So Steve, what about podcasts? Have you guys ventured into that space yet?
We will be, and we'll be starting that towards the end of April. We have thought about it for a while. We were doing a lot of webinars. I mean, we do monthly webinars with different industry leaders, and we sponsor a lot of things. We don't run a lot of them. We have consulting companies or analyst firms do them, but we're just the sponsor of them. So we've been doing a lot of those, and we have some regularity to them, that it made sense when, as I talk to a lot of executives almost on a daily basis, it makes sense for us to start a podcast to move forward and give our customers and our prospects another channel by which they can get the information that will help them succeed more in their day-to-day life.
Oh yeah, we're just launching the whole podcast series, which is the same interviews you and I are doing right now, but it's the audio only version that gets uploaded with our biographical information on it that somebody can just listen to while they're hiking or biking or driving or whatever they're doing. Yeah, so that's something big that we're doing too as well. So I imagine when you started, well, I shouldn't say that. Let me just ask you, has your business model changed over the last 10 years? Are you doing a lot more subscription-based products?
We are. So just to give you a little bit of the background, when I was recruited to take over the U.S., that was late 2007, 2008, and the board had given me direction to go after banking. Well, if you remember back then, banks were having a hard time during the global crisis. So banks weren't going to be our target. So I had to turn to the board and say, it's time for a quick pivot. So we had to pivot very quickly, and we pivoted into the healthcare market because we could see that the Affordable Care Act or some type of change was going to happen in healthcare in the U.S. So we wanted to be ready for that, and we saw great opportunities to help health plans, hospitals, various health systems be prepared for that. So we pivoted very quickly. Now, in 2013, we saw that everything was beginning to move to the cloud. Mm-hmm. Now, that was a gamble even then, 2012, 2013, it was a gamble to move everything to the cloud. But we said, as a company, we have to make a decision, right? Are we going to move to a cloud and a subscription model that allows any company of any size to be able to get world-class technology to help themselves out better? And we said, let's make the decision. So we made a conscious decision. It was a 2-year development effort to change everything from an installed perpetual, buy it once and pay maintenance license to a full cloud SaaS system that is sitting in cloud data centers around the world that can really service clients with ease. So we were able to provision quickly. We could provision in minutes now.
Right.
Where it had to be installed and you had to send someone out to help with the installation. But now we're glad we never stopped that process. We made that decision, and now we are 100% subscription, 100% cloud-based. So all of our technology is there, and everybody gets the benefit every time we upgrade.
So when you made that change, Steve, how did that change? So then all of a sudden customer success becomes a lot bigger deal, right? It's not just buy once and move on. It's like, I've got to keep these guys happy month after month for their entire life cycle. So how does that change your approach to operations, customer success, customer experience, marketing? How do you see that evolve?
It changed a lot of things. And I think the second a business executive realizes that a model change has 25 other things that have to be done, they get that feeling in the pit of their stomach, like, now I've really got to address all of these things.
Yes.
But the good news here is that we really looked at the model change and said, it's not just the fact that we're going to change this model. Our customers come to know and love us for the level of customer centricity that we provide them, that we never leave their side. We're always there. We have all kinds of ways that we're available for them to make them successful. And we said, well, now that you're becoming a cloud company, you're almost a little more moved from that. So you have to put a lot of things in place. The first thing I had to put in place was an entire customer success team. Now, I approached the customer success team from both a technology and a business perspective. So I went out and I found experts, not only experts that could help our customers with the technology, the security, all of those types of issues, but business experts that come from contact centers, come from health insurance, come from hospitals, come from financial services, et cetera. Because I wanted customer success to not just be a evolved account management.
Right.
I wanted it to be the partner, the trusted advisor that the customer could call, even if it has nothing to do with our technology, but they wanted to talk about their usage in the contact center, or they wanted to talk about how they might be able to address their turnover or their attrition levels or some other factor. So our customer success people, they field questions that really are more of a coaching and advisory service, in addition to making sure that the accounts have everything that they need, that they're pointed in the right direction. So then we went a little bit beyond that and we said, okay, we've got customer success, but customer enablement was next, because companies were having a harder time sending people to trainings and getting them out of the office for 5 days or more. So we built an entire university platform, and it's a real robust system. It's got a couple of hundred hours of training built into it, from the beginner, I don't know anything about your system, all the way through to the more advanced administrative. How do I connect your system through APIs to other technologies? Does it connect to Salesforce, Microsoft?
Right.
My IVR system. So we cover the gambit to enable them to self-serve their learning needs also. And beyond that, we say, okay, well, that's good, but that doesn't get us all the way to the goal line. And then we said, okay, well, we need them to have lifelines also. And when we looked at that, we said, no matter what kind of a contract they have with us or what services they've purchased for us, every customer gets an hour of a sit down with an expert every single month. And they just go on, they click, gee, Tuesday at 2 o'clock sounds good. It sends them both the Zoom link.
Right.
Both show up. And in that hour, we'll talk to them about some of the things that they're working on. We'll give them advice. We'll give them a take on how should you approach this. Or there have been a lot of cases where the customer says, I just don't know how to do this. We'll do it for them, right? We'll say, hey, for an hour, we'll spend it anytime you want, any way you want. So we'll do that, and we'll show you through you can watch on the Zoom meeting. We'll go step by step, and here's how we do it. So it's really an advanced training facility.
Wow.
They can click right into that. They can get to it. We have forums. And then we said, okay, one step further. Nobody likes to start from scratch. And the one thing I wanted to solve was, I probably haven't built a PowerPoint from scratch in a long time. I usually find something that's close to it, and then I customize it or I change the design.
Yes.
Well, customers are the same way. There's not enough hours in the course of a day. So we said, okay, we have done so much over the course of the last 12, 14 years in developing proof of concepts, in working with clients, in doing all kinds of out-of-the-box thinking around the content that goes into a knowledge system for every industry. So what we did was we took all of our knowledge and we built out a series of templates that allows our customers to just click, download it, and they get started. So there's no clean slate approach to it. The templates will get them started right away, and maybe it's 50% of the way there, and then they just tweak it to their own individual needs to show, to show their employees exactly how to do this. So we did that, and we probably add 20 of those every month and send them out to clients so that they're aware of it. And a lot of our partners contribute, as well as our customers. You don't know how many times customers will say, I'm really proud of what we built for our hospital to be able to take a symptom-based call when somebody calls in and they've got chest pains. Well, we built something around that. And they say, could you offer this to other hospitals? And we just get blown away every time a customer says, I don't even mind if my competitor down the street has it, because it's our job to take good care of patients. It's our job to take good care of customers. So if we can help everyone do better and take care of our citizens, then we did something good. And they do that through contributing to our template system, and everybody gets the benefit of it.
Steve, I want to thank you so much for just sharing the world of knowledge management with all of us on the outside, and just pulling back the curtains and letting us know what it takes to operate in a fast evolving world, and to manage marketing when content consumption behaviors are changing and marketing approaches and business models are changing. So it's been a fascinating discussion. Thank you so much for joining us today, Steve.
My pleasure, Kevin. Thank you for having me, and I hope everybody enjoys our talk together.
Thank you. And I want to thank everyone that tuned in today for joining.